Most men give compliments that are forgotten before she gets home. A small number of men give compliments that she is still thinking about 3 weeks later. The difference is not how flattering the compliment is, it is how deeply it reaches, and whether it proves something that flattery alone never can. What we're covering today are 3 specific types of compliments, rooted in neuroscience, self-referential psychology, and the specific emotional needs of female psychology that create a depth of impact that ordinary compliments never touch. One of them involves acknowledging something she has never heard named before. Another involves something you do before you speak that determines whether the compliment lands or dissolves. And the third, the climax, is the one that creates the most lasting emotional impression available in verbal communication. All 3. Let's go. Here is the honest premise. A compliment is not just a positive statement about another person. In the psychology of connection and attraction, a compliment is a piece of evidence. It proves, or fails to prove, one specific thing, that you were paying genuine attention. Generic compliments prove nothing. They require no attention to produce. They could be said to anyone. And because they could be said to anyone, they reach no one specifically. The 3 compliments we're covering today are different. Each one requires genuine observation. Each one could only be said about her. And each one activates something in the brain that generic praise simply doesn't reach. 3 compliments. Real psychology. Let's get into it. Bold claim. The reason most compliments fail to create lasting impact has nothing to do with what is said. It has everything to do with the quality of attention that preceded the saying. And most men are giving compliments from a place of observation so shallow that the words land without depth. Here is the neuroscience. Research on self-referential neural processing, conducted at multiple institutions including Harvard and Stanford, consistently shows that when another person accurately reflects something specific about us back to us, it activates the medial prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain associated with identity, self-concept, and deep emotional processing. Generic compliments barely touch this region. They are processed as social noise, pleasant but not significant. Specific, accurate compliments that require genuine attention to produce go deeper. They activate the part of the brain that processes identity, who we actually are, rather than just the part that registers pleasant stimulation. This is why the most powerful compliments are not the most enthusiastic ones. They are the most accurate ones, the ones that prove you have been watching closely enough to see something real. The preparation for giving a compliment that lands is not about finding the right words. It is about developing the habit of genuinely, curiously watching another person, of being interested enough in who they specifically are to notice things worth naming. Without that preparation, the 3 compliments we're about to cover are just sentences. With it, they become experiences she carries. Bold claim, the most immediately powerful compliment available, is one that names something specific about how she moves through the world, something she has always sensed in herself but never heard anyone articulate. Here is the psychology. Every person carries what researchers call an unwitnessed self, aspects of their character, their way of being, their particular gifts that are real and significant, but have never been accurately reflected back to them by someone who mattered. They sense these qualities in themselves. They can feel them operating, but they have never heard them named by someone paying close enough attention. When you name that thing, accurately, specifically, without performance, you do something extraordinary. You give her language for something she already knew was true. You witness something that has been invisible. You prove, through the specificity of what you say, that you have been watching her closely enough to see something most people missed. The experience of being witnessed, of having your real self seen and named by someone whose perception you value, is one of the most emotionally significant things one person can offer another. It is not flattery, it is recognition. And recognition lands in a place that flattery never reaches. Scenario: a man named Thomas had been watching a woman named Claire for weeks, not obsessively, but with the genuine curiosity of someone who found her interesting. He noticed something specific, the way she always found the human angle in conversations that others treated as purely practical. The way she consistently remembered to ask about people's experiences rather than just their opinions. He said, "I've noticed something about you. You always bring the human element back into conversations that have drifted into abstraction. Most people let those moments pass. You don't. You pull things back to what it actually feels like to be a person. I don't think you realize how rare that is." Claire went home and thought about that sentence for days. Not because it was flattering, because it was true, because he had seen something she had always done and never heard named, and the naming made it real in a new way. What most men do wrong, they observe things and never say them, or they say them generically. "You're so caring," rather than specifically. The generic version requires no observation and lands accordingly. What actually works? Find the specific thing, the particular behavior you've noticed more than once, the pattern that could only be described about her. Name it with the quiet confidence of someone who observed it honestly. Bold claim, telling a woman how she makes you feel, specifically, honestly, from a place of genuine vulnerability, creates more intimacy than any observation about her could produce, because it requires you to be seen as well. Here is the psychology. Arthur Aaron's foundational research on intimacy formation, the famous 36 questions study, documents that reciprocal self-disclosure is the primary mechanism through which genuine intimacy develops. The specific act of sharing how another person affects you, not performing it, not calculating it, actually saying the honest thing, creates a mutual moment that changes the dynamic of the interaction. When you tell her what her presence produces in you, not generically, not performatively, but with the specific honesty of someone who was genuinely affected, you do two things simultaneously. You give her information about her impact, and you make yourself visible in a way that requires genuine courage. That combination, her being seen through your observation, you being seen through your honesty, produces the mutual visibility that genuine intimacy requires. I think differently after conversations with you. I leave them with thoughts I didn't have before. That doesn't happen often, and I want you to know I notice it. Something about being around you makes me more honest than I usually am. I don't fully understand it. I just know it happens. You have this quality of making ordinary moments feel worth paying attention to. I find myself more present when I'm near you than I am most of the time. None of these are elaborate. Each of them requires genuine experience to produce, and each of them tells her something about her impact, not her qualities, her impact, that most people never hear expressed. Mini story. A man named Adrian had been building a connection with a woman named Isabel for several weeks. One evening, in a genuinely unplanned moment, he said, "I want to tell you something I've been thinking about. You make me more curious about things I thought I already had figured out. I don't know how you do that, but I've been noticing it." Isabel was quiet for a moment. Then, "Nobody has ever told me I made them more curious. That might be the most meaningful thing anyone has said to me in years." Adrian hadn't planned that sentence. He had simply said the true thing. And the true thing, said from a place of genuine experience, reached her in a way that calculated compliments never could. Bold claim. The quality of attention you bring before you speak determines everything about whether these compliments land or dissolve. And most men skip this part entirely. This section is about the internal work that precedes the external expression. Before you can give a compliment that reaches the deep place, that activates identity-level processing rather than surface-level pleasantness, you have to actually see the person you are talking to, not the person you want them to be, not the projection of attractive qualities you are mapping onto them, the actual, specific, fully inhabited person in front of you. That seeing requires something most men in early attraction rarely practice: genuine curiosity without agenda. Most men in early connection are partially attending to the woman in front of them and partially monitoring how they are coming across. Their attention is split, inward and outward simultaneously, and that split means they never fully arrive at the quality of observation that genuine compliments require. The practice is this. Before your next significant interaction, make a deliberate internal commitment to be more curious about her than you are about how you're doing. Turn the attention fully outward. Notice specifically. Watch how she thinks, not just what she says. Watch what she does with her hands when she's uncertain. Watch how her energy changes when she talks about different things. Watch what lights her up. That quality of genuine attention, turned fully outward, is what produces the observations worth naming. And it is also, as a secondary consequence, one of the most attractive qualities you can embody in an interaction, because she can feel the quality of your attention. The difference between being genuinely seen and being politely acknowledged is immediate and visceral. Be the man who actually looks. This is the truth reveal, the deepest and most powerful compliment available, the one that creates the most lasting emotional impression, and the one almost no one ever gives. Bold claim. The most powerful compliment you can give another person is not about who they are. It is about who you can see them becoming, the direction they are moving, the version of themselves that is emerging, named with the specific clarity of someone who has been paying close enough attention to see a trajectory, not just a snapshot. Here is why this is the deepest compliment available. Most compliments are static. They describe who someone is right now, which is valuable. But human beings are not static. We are in continuous process, becoming, developing, growing toward versions of ourselves that we can sometimes sense but haven't yet fully inhabited. The person who can see that trajectory, who can name not just who you are but where you are going, offers something that no snapshot compliment can replicate. They offer a mirror to your own becoming. They give you a vision of yourself that is forward-facing. That says, I see where you're headed. I find the person you're growing into remarkable. And I'm paying attention closely enough to track the direction of your development. That is not flattery. That requires extraordinary attention. It requires having watched someone across multiple contexts, having noticed patterns, having seen the person they are in the process of becoming, not just the person they present today. Mini story. A woman named Victoria, 38, had been going through a significant personal and professional transformation over the course of 2 years. She had changed careers, left a relationship that wasn't serving her, and made several difficult choices in the direction of a life that was more genuinely hers. A man named Edward, 55, who had known her throughout this period, said something to her at dinner that she described to her sister the next day with visible emotion. I want to say something I've been thinking about. Over the last 2 years, I've watched you choose yourself, again and again. In situations where it would have been easier to choose differently, you chose the version of your life that was actually yours. I find the person you're becoming genuinely remarkable, not who you were, who you are right now, in the middle of becoming something. Victoria said she cried in the car on the drive home, not because it was romantic, because he had seen something she was in the middle of living, something she hadn't stepped back far enough to see clearly herself, and named it with more accuracy than she could have managed. That is the becoming compliment, and it is the most powerful verbal gift available between two people, because it does something the other compliments don't. It says, I have been watching long enough to see a direction. I find that direction worth naming. I believe in where you're going. And being believed in, specifically, accurately, by someone who has paid enough attention to have genuine grounds for the belief, is one of the most profoundly moving human experiences available. Here is the practical instruction. To give this compliment, you need time. You need to have known someone across multiple contexts and multiple moments. You need to have been watching genuinely rather than performing attention, and you need to find the specific direction. Not a general, "you're growing so much." That is almost meaningless. The specific direction, what she is moving toward, what version of herself is emerging that wasn't fully present 6 months ago, what quality is developing, what she is becoming more of. Name that, specifically, with the confidence of someone who has actually seen it, and then let the silence that follows do its work. Here's the question I want to leave you with. Of these three compliments, the one that names what she does that nobody else has named, the one that expresses what her presence does to you, and the one that names who she is becoming, which one are you most capable of giving genuinely right now, and which one requires you to pay better attention before you can give it honestly? Because the answer to that second question tells you where your next growth is. A compliment given from genuine observation and genuine feeling is one of the most connecting things available between two people. It requires nothing expensive, nothing elaborate, only the willingness to actually see another person clearly and the courage to say what you find. Drop in the comments, what is the most meaningful compliment you have ever received, the one that stayed with you? I read every single one. And if today changed how you think about attention and expression, subscribe. Every week we bring this level of depth to the psychology of genuine human connection. See you in the next one.